Guys, today's topic video is going to be about Doreen Virtue's recent anti-New Age list from A to Z. You can find that listed on her website, doreenvirtue.com. I believe that's her website. At first, when I read the list, I didn't think she actually wrote it. I've read most of her books, if not all of her books, and she was a member of the New Age community. So when I read this A to Z list, it did not sound anything like something she would write. So I thought it was someone just sort of impersonating her. I was really surprised and actually shocked when I went to her website and her Facebook page, and it was posted on her Facebook page and website. In the list, it talks about how dream catchers, astrology, yoga, drumming circles, anything related to quote-unquote New Age or things that have been done, by our ancestors is basically the devil's work. Fairies are demons in disguise. It was very, very fear-based. And if any of you have followed Doreen, it's just not like her. So she recently converted to Christianity in January 2017, which at that time I remember seeing the first video she posted that she deleted since. I think it's deleted. I haven't been able to find it again. Just proclaiming her vision with Jesus Christ of Nazareth. And in the video, I felt like she was not stable. And that was my initial reaction. My best friend sent me a link to the video, and I watched it, and my initial instinctual reaction was, Doreen is off-center. There's something wrong with her. Not because she wants to become a Christian. I always felt like her work kind of had an undertone of Christianity in the way that she displayed the angels and just the fact that she's using the biblical names for the angels. So it wasn't a surprise or a big stretch to me that she would convert to Christianity. I was happy for her, in all honesty. I know a lot of people have issues with the church. I do not. I love Jesus Christ of Nazareth. I am a Christian. I also have a very open mind, and I don't believe that our natural gifts are of the devil. That's just my opinion. And trust me, there are lots of people that would argue with that, especially Doreen's fanatical Christian followers at this time, and that's fine. But this recent list is very shocking to me, and I posted something on her page saying, along the lines like, you really need Jesus right now, because the way you're acting is not what I know Jesus to act like. He's not a judgmental asshole, for one, and there's no way that your way is the only way to worship our divine, and Harry Potter was on the list. I thought it was culturally insensitive just how she talked about a lot of Aboriginal culture as if it was all driven by demonic beings and spirits. So I have a few theories. A lot of people have never really liked Doreen Virtue. I mean, she has definitely a ton of followers, but some of the criticism she's received when she was purely New Age was that she was too fluffy, too rainbowy, too bubbles, everything's, in the light. And I would have to agree with that. And anytime I use her cards, I always use a shadow deck with them, because I do find they're just purely positive, which is obviously not a bad thing, but life is not just the light. We have the shadow side as well. So my theory is Doreen has never fully embraced her shadow side, and I feel like at this time in her life, and this is just my theory, you can take it with a grain of salt. I really, if you want to debate and argue with that, that's fine. I'm not really into that mode right now. I'm just trying to articulate my feelings about why she would destroy the New Age community, or attempt to, in a sense. For one, I do think that she feels like she's doing God's work and helping confused souls, choose a side and make it clearer for them. And she does have a lot of people that respect and value her opinion. So I'm sure lots of people will, follow along and block off. Like, I mean, crystals, she talks about crystals being evil. How can the earth, it's the actual earth, crystals are from the earth. How can that be evil? So it's just like a pretty absurd list. I mean, you have to read it yourself. It's absolutely absurd. And I do feel like because she couldn't get her work discontinued by Hay House, my reaction, number one, I'll just backpedal. I think she has some mental instability at the moment, which is not in any way an insult. Everyone goes through mental difficulties. No one is exempt from that. And if they tell you they are, they're probably not accepting reality of life. Life is tough. If any part of our body can get out of balance, then why can't we all have mental illness? Everyone has had it at some point in their life, and if they don't, they'll eventually get it. That's my opinion again. Number two, I feel like because Hay House, her past publisher, wouldn't let her discontinue a lot of her work, and I know it really bothered her because I was guided to watch a video online, and I'm sorry, I don't know the name of it, but she was being interviewed by some young evangelist guy on the radio, and it was all live on YouTube, and I just skipped halfway into the video and heard her saying how much it bothered her that she couldn't get her work taken off the shelves or out of print. She got some of the tarot decks won't have her name on them anymore, and I sell them here at the store with and without her name on them, because they're great decks regardless of whether she thinks they are or not. They are awesome decks, and Radley Valentine, who she admitted is the co-author, he's a co-author. She admitted that he actually pretty much produced the whole thing, so he's getting the royalties from those tarot decks. So she took her name off some, but I do feel like, going back to that video I fell upon, I feel like the way he was talking to her almost made her feel ashamed of her past. And anyone that has dealt with some Christians, not all, but some Christians, will make you feel like you're a stain on the earth if you have lived a life that's not purely of the Lord. So I felt uncomfortable for her while she was being interviewed, because she's like, I can't take the work off the shelves. I can't get it out of print. It's so frustrating. I don't resonate with it anymore. Something along those lines. And I do feel like her making this list from A to Z makes most people not want her work anymore that's in the New Age community, because there was still a demand for her work. Even though she became Christian, people were still, wanting to buy her work. So really, she basically destroyed her past body of work through this literature bashing of every New Age sect there is. She's written about astrology. She's written about a little bit about shamanism. Not too much, but she's written about angels, and she even says in this list, angels, could be demons too. Everything could be demons. Satan's everywhere. It's just ridiculous. And my other theory, so there's that theory, mentally ill. Second theory, I feel like she purposely wanted to discredit her own work through this list. Like, no one will actually want to buy her work anymore because she couldn't get out of it from her past publisher. So that's the second theory. And then the third theory is as to why, I don't feel like she's making up the list. I do feel like when I was reading through it, that she was purging, trying to purify herself of all of her past sins, where she really got in depth in a lot of these subjects. So I do feel like she doesn't fully accept how beautiful of a person she is and what she brought and the value she brought to the world, which is kind of sad, So that's just humanizing her for all those people that are really hating on her right now. And maybe that's just me, because I always try to see the good in most people, especially someone that I've learned so much from. I've learned a ton from Doreen Virtue. And I always thought she was a little bit odd, for sure, but like it seemed like she embraced it. But now I feel like she's trying to cleanse herself of who she actually is, and that kind of makes me sad. Because she's not fully embracing that shadow side of herself, whatever that is for her. We all have a shadow side. None of us are perfect. And because maybe the way she was raised in an um, open-minded forum, maybe she just feels like at this time in her life she has to regress. I don't know. I really don't know. And I don't know why I'm thinking so much about it. I guess for me, I still value her work. I'm still going to use her decks and, send her blessings, whatever. But I am not going to feel in any way that I'm doing something wrong in the world because I'm interested in astrology and I'm learning about the planets. And because I love tarot and I think it's a beautiful divination tool. And I think anybody can take any of those divination tools and poison them, just like Doreen. Yeah, I know you're watching. Just like if you were to take the Lord's name and poison the words and poison the knowledge and spread the poison of that, like most, if not all, fundamental Christians have taken Jesus Christ of Nazareth and destroyed who he really is, what he really stood for. He did not stand for judgment and just like pointing a finger at people and making people feel like disgusting pieces of slime. And just, ugh. I had a gentleman come into the store the other day, a couple times now, and just with a Bible and telling me, like, if I don't stop what I'm doing, I'm going to go to spend my entire rest of my eternal life in hell. Because I'm selling pendulums and tarot cards, I'm going to go to hell. I'm fairly certain I'm a good person. I'm not perfect, but I'm not poisoning the food stream. I'm not, murdering anyone. I know I've hurt people in my life intentionally and unintentionally, mostly unintentionally, although that could be debatable. Unconsciously, for sure. But I try really hard to be a good person and I try to help other people. And honestly, if there is a God out there that's watching me, and every time I sell a pendulum, keeping tabs of that, or every time I do a card reading, he's keeping tabs of that, I'm going to say fuck you to God, because you know what? There are bigger fish to fry in this world than, attacking people that are trying to connect to their inner being, trying to help the world through spirituality. So, you know what? I'm going to call BS on that whole A to Z list. I wish Doreen all the best. I hope she gets the help she needs, and I really do hope that Jesus Christ that she's in line with isn't a demon itself, because to me that's kind of what it seems like. And just throwing their own knowledge back at them about, like, how do you know who you're communing with is Jesus? How do you know it's not a demon in disguise, Doreen? You don't. So, you know what? That whole judgmental, self-righteous, greater than thou bullshit, I have no tolerance for it. And I feel really bad for Doreen's family. Like, I watched her daughter-in-law talk live, Melissa Virtue, on Facebook, and she's really being sensitive and trying to say the right things. But you can tell the whole family, because she basically destroyed her kids' work. Grant and Charles and Melissa, they're all in the field working. All of her past friends, like even Radley, I'm like, how can you have a conversation with her now when she's basically said what you're doing is devil's work? I don't know. That's her issue, her karma. I'm not going to make it my karma. I just wanted to point out that there might be some things people don't know. Like, I do feel like she just tried to get rid of her own work on her own, and maybe without realizing it, destroyed a lot of relationships in her life, which I think is kind of sad. because, you know, she's getting older, and hopefully she rectifies her wrongdoings, because, you know, sometimes, again, we can unintentionally hurt people. That's basically all I wanted to say about the list from A to Z. I hope you find this interesting. If you have any other additional feedback or comments, please post them below. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.